Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. And this Friday, we kind of have a special occasion because we're doing a crossover reading with MD Wheatley to promote his newly released poetry collection, What a Heaven Could Feel Like. So that's pretty awesome. MD has hand selected the slate of readers for tonight. So let's get into this thing. So first up is Graham Irving.
Hey,
Hey Graham, how's it going?
glad to be. It's good. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad.
All right. Thanks for posting this link because that was what I was going to post too. That's all I really have to promote. I have a book coming out in March. Um, you all should buy it or like pre-order it or whatever it's called. Um, and that's mostly what I'm going to be reading from here. Uh, let's see. Yeah, this is from I Have a Gun. When making a point about the problems of Western society, some writers will say tribal communities do X, X always being the opposite of the Western norm. Ted Kaczynski in Industrial Society and Its Future suggests tribal communities never struggle with climate change, nuclear war, depression, anxiety, or other problems present in industrialized societies because they were obviously not industrialized. Camille Paglia in Sexual Personae states that women in tribal communities had much more social power and mobility because those communities understood women's natural purpose as life creators. They weren't oppressed by feminism. Paglia and Kaczynski and almost anyone who uses that rhetorical device mean people who live closer to nature behave naturally, and people who live further from nature behave unnaturally. Natural behavior in their argument is always present as more ethically or presented as more ethically, morally, philosophically sound. Natural behavior is outside of post Enlightenment logic. Natural behavior is just natural. Rarely is a specific tribe named or elaborated on, and rarely is the statement backed up by an anthropologist's quote or book or data. These writers assume everyone reading is from the same Western society and reading to learn the problems of Western society. The name of the tribe who behaves naturally and in opposition of Western society is rhetorically unimportant for their writer's argument. What society's problem is they have forsaken nature. Their solution is to return to a more traditional way of life or something like that. For what it's worth, Kaczynski wrote an article in 2008 called The Truth About Primitive Life, where he makes the same critique I just made. He says, anarcho primitivists rely too heavily on argumentum ad antiquatum, appeals to tradition. And to be honest, I didn't finish Paglia's book. I didn't agree with her main thesis, but I liked how she mostly analyzed vibes. That was relatable. Anyway, the reason I brought all that up is I recently read somewhere there's a tribe, a group of primitive people who are free from the woes of our modern way of living, who believe school shootings are actually good. These tribal people say that when someone comes into a place where children spend their formative years, where they are meant to feel safest and commits multiple acts of murder, that it will lead to a better harvest in the next season. Or like some beautiful bird god will bring more rain. Um, let's see. I wanted to also read a a like outtakes from this book because I get bored with reading the same things over and over again. Uh, so I want to read something that no one will ever read. uh, I'm going to read two outtakes. This is called The Christiana Mall in Delaware. Patrick sells guns at the Foot Locker in the Christiana Mall in Delaware. Lisa sells guns at the Auntie Anne's in the Christiana Mall in Delaware. Tanya sells guns at the Fundamentalist Baptist Church in the Christiana Mall in Delaware. Death Star sells guns at the CBD kiosk in the Christiana Mall in Delaware. 25-pound kettlebell sells guns at the hand lotion kiosk next to the CBD kiosk in the Christiana Mall in Delaware. Two slices of pepperoni and a medium soda sells guns at the Polo Ralph Lauren and the Boscovs next to the Auntie Anne's in the Christiana Mall in Delaware. Fred, the security guard, sells guns while on break from his job as security guard at the Louis Vuitton store in the Christiana Mall in Delaware. There's even a guy we see in the food court sometimes who sells guns when they stop giving out free samples at the Master Walk in the Christiana Mall in Delaware. In Rehoboth Beach, they have this chimpanzee who sells guns at the Old Salt gift shop in the Penny Lane Mall. He used to be the star of a couple kids' movies, but now he sells guns in Delaware. They do things differently down there, but that's not my business. And then here's another outtake. It's called Halal. The Christiana Mall in Delaware is flooded, so I walk to get halal. I dream about a pretzel factory filled with water. In the dream, a man abandons his car and walks to get halal. The man tells me the pretzel factory was filled with water. I show him paper bags from the Christiana Mall in Delaware filled with water. The man from my dream says, I have a gun, so I let him order first. He tells me a conversation is an argument I always win. I have to hand it to him. The man from my dream is upset. His falafel is taking longer than expected. He says again, I have a gun. Something I've never seen before happens by the Christiana Mall in Delaware, and I run in the opposite direction. Okay, and now one more part from, one more part from the actual book. So if you pre-order the book now, in a couple months in March, you will be able to read this verbatim in that book. So if you like this thing that I am about to read, you should pre-order the book. And it's in a link in the chat. The book is called I Have a Gun. It's about having a gun. With some when something is written in present tense, I picture the writer in real time doing what they wrote as I read it. So if I say I'm walking through the woods, you might imagine me walking through the woods right now. You might think, okay, he's in the woods now. I can see that. But I'm probably not in the woods right now. Not when you're reading this. And if I am in the woods when you're reading this, it's completely unrelated to your reading. Even if it's true that I wrote this while walking through the woods, even if I say I'm walking through Wissahickon Park in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania right now, even if you know Wissahickon Park and can picture it and me both in your mind's eye, none of that's really happening right now as you read this. Right now, there's no park and there's no me, just you reading this, imagining this. So, having said all that, imagine I'm walking through the woods. Imagine you're in the woods with me and I'm walking towards you. And holy shit, there's something in my hand. And you're pretty sure it's an effing Herstal 308 sniper rifle. How did I get that? Isn't that gun only available for military and police use? I'm slowly raising it. I'm pointing it right at you. My finger is sliding toward the trigger. You're frozen on the trail 100 feet in front of me. You know what's about to happen. No, just kidding. I'm playing around. None of that's happening. Chill out. I'm actually just sitting in my 2008 Mercury Milan in the parking lot next to the Wissahickon Park. It's 11 a.m. on a Monday. I've been here for an hour at least just thinking. And yes, there's something in my hand. Yes, it's definitely a gun. And the barrel's in my mouth. The silicone anti-seize lubricant is making me lightheaded. Don't worry though, the gun isn't loaded or anything. Or wait, okay, yeah, it is loaded. The gun's loaded. But whatever, I have the safety on. No, wait. Okay, that's all I have to read now.
Graham, that fucking rocked, man. I am so excited. I am so fucking excited for this book. And every time you read from it, I'm more excited for it because what I love is you would think given the premise that there'd be some like element of repetition here, right? That like there would be like some redundancy from poem to poem, but no, like every poem you read is looking at the subject of firearms through like a fantastically different lens. And I love how in the two that you read today, the two that will actually be appearing in the book, like there's a long kind of build up before the gun even appears. Like there's a real and since I know what book you're reading from, and I've heard other poems from the book, and I know the premise of the book, your mind is turning away, trying to like you're waiting, like it's like a literally like a Chekhov's gun situation where you're waiting for the gun to appear. You're waiting for the gun to enter the scene and become significant. And each and every time you fucking surprise me in the way you integrate that theme into the work. And it's not the same at all from poem to poem. Like I know I said this before. I think I said this the last time you read, but I love the way that you're using like the gun as like the ultimate means to interrogate American culture, right? Western culture. And each and every time it's through a different lens. And yet it's always insightful, it's always astute, and it's often very funny. But you have to answer me one question. Why did you drop those two poems? Why did they get cut from the book? Because they were awesome.
I appreciate all that you just said. That's very nice of you. I think that they're like maybe are just like self-contained, but about they just have guns in them. So every time I like thought about those, I was like, that one's about halal, and that one's a halal poem, and that one's like a mall poem. So because it's like I don't know, because it doesn't seem like they didn't make sense to get to them like through the narrative of the book, like to
Oh,
get to that
okay.
topic. Like it just didn't it like so I had a lot of those that were just like they were poems that were about something else, but they just featured, even if they featured a lot of the same stuff, it was like the narrative in that poem was about something else. So I
Gotcha.
don't know. I'll
Well, at least they'll be
put
here.
them
At
on
least if
somewhere.
somebody wants to hear those poems in the future, they'll always be up on YouTube with the Mystery Loves Company video. Graham, that was fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Willie.
Sorry. I
Yeah,
feel
no
like I
problem.
interrupted you. Were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
No, I didn't have anything to say.
Oh, okay. Thanks, man. And it was nice to meet your mom, too. W's in the chat for Graham's mom, please. And for Graham. Anyway, Cletus is up next. Cletus Crow.
Hey, William.
Hey, Cletus. How's it going, man?
Hey, pretty good. Pretty good. Um, so I'm going to be reading some from my chapbook of Sinryu, but then I'm working on a collection called Phallic Symbols. Write what you love, I guess. But the rest of the poems are from that. So I'll go ahead and start. So here are the three Sinryu. He wields a lit torch and marches the ocean floor, my best worst nightmare. Skinny vultures peck through discarded McDonald's. I'm unemployed too. What the deep state hides, angels chained up underground, are good childhoods. All right, now for the longer form poems. Here's Mini Dystopia. Mini Dystopia. Our jacuzzi shoots fire. Every soy boy contains the soul of an aborted fetus, and my eyes were made in China. In bedrooms across America, microscopic cameras ensure no man has anal sex with himself or his demons. We milk sacred soy boys to represent hardiness and valor, as these balls are blue, symbolizing vigilance and justice. Dressing colorfully will get you exiled from paradise. I mean it this time, says Miss Officer. Her breath smells like breath. They announce the date of the end of the world. We're alive, but hedgehogs with pearl underbellies. You stick a crib in our barricade, scrawl who'll get your diamonds, then pray to Narnia Lion. I say we need a German shepherd, maybe another bunker. I've started attending church for sermons about forgiveness to rekindle our sex life. All right, here's Sunday. So good to just sit in a hot car and sweat after arguing over who should empty the litter box. Stepping out, July mimics autumn's auburn breeze, better than ecstasy. Oh fuck, oh kitty pee, oh malignant monogamous sex drive. Pain, pain, pain. I'm immunized to our chaos. All right, let's see here. Thank you. If you're a troll, thank you. So this is The Night You Stormed Out. The night you stormed out, I had Smokey all to myself. We watched Saw 2, and he didn't budge during ultraviolence. I drank 4 cans of PBR. The ceiling was dingier than usual. I'd never noticed its cracks, how rain discolored piscal corners. I tried to fuck the couch cushions. All right, I just have a few more. This is Uber Eats. How do we advertise a dusty sepulcher? You injecting innumerable lattes with roses as I deliver acai bowls to quarantined psychiatrists. It's when ramen slips through the needle's eye. Why our doppelgangers have MFAs in necromancy but can't afford shit. Tonight, vegan parfaits bulge out of my freezer bag like healthy kidneys. Imagine we live where I'm going. Each moat filled with crocodiles. An unattainable mortgage. All right, this is Uncircumcised. My grandfather, in his cracked 80s, fallen in the shower, naked as a baby squirrel because his skin's that pink. The water had been scalding. As a child, he sprinted through my daydreams. He coached high school football for 19 years and could outrun the youngest stud. Flapping ears like wings, humongous like mine. I shoot forearms under his armpits, lace my fingers, and lift up, trying not to gaze down. Origins no one should see. After he's enveloped, I carry him through the bedroom, waiting for another vision to change my life. A ghost emerges minutes later, donning khaki shorts, a ruby jersey, and pearl tennis shoes, but all of it gleams silver. I want a lane here like a snake wants human legs, he says. Even the tenor of his voice clatters like coins dropped on the hardwood. All right, this is Ideation. And this will be my last one. They should invent true happiness. You feel nothing perched on the cliffs of Moher beside the hung boyfriend. They should make a way to jump without dying so you can feel air through your fur. They should stuff that feeling in a syringe, but you feel like falling for real. So they should invent God or some massive net. You feel yourself step forward. They should let you do it, but no one wants to ruin a moment. There are kids here. You're sorry for their open eyes. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
So I think I kicked out the troll, but I'll give you the round of applause too. So that was fucking phenomenal. You've read a few of these at Misery Loves Company before. It's nice to hear them again, but I won't talk about the ones that I've talked about in the past. But man, one thing I've said before about your poems is how phenomenal the sense of atmosphere is, and also how incredible like the details you choose, like the often surreal, very morbid, but also very funny details. But what I noticed this time is how good some of your more subtle details are, how effective some of the more like understated stuff is too. Like the ceiling is dingier than usual is such a good fucking line, because and it communicates so much of like the atmosphere of like decay and just like the gradual like unwinding of, just because think about it, like that's such a good detail, because how often you clean your fucking ceiling, right? And what position are you going to be in when you notice the ceiling is dirty. Like that's some deep, deep depression shit. Like that's you're lying paralyzed on your back and you look up and it's like, oh shit, the ceiling is dirty, right? Like there has to be this like long, slow deterioration and decay for a ceiling to get noticeably dingy. And so I love that detail, and I love the way that it's like carefully inserted and worked into the like overwhelming malaise of that poem, right? It's a very depressing poem. And I love how it's integrated. I love all of your poems are like this, and I've said this before. There's not a single wasted or misused detail. There's not a word, sentence, line that goes to waste. And these are just beautiful, man. And I'm glad to see you back in reading again.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Will.
Also,
Thank
was
you.
this
Thank
the
you for the
face
company.
reveal? Was this the face reveal for you? I don't think you've read on camera before.
Oh yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, this is my face, my beautiful, beautiful face. But yes, thank you, Will, and thanks MD for letting me read tonight. Thanks a lot.
Hey, I just want to say some the necromancer line there, the necromancers with MFAs is a great line because it suggests the humanities and the necromancer is linked to necromancy, which is great. Love
I'm
that.
glad
And I
you got
also
that. I'm glad you got that. Yeah.
I love the line. Is that a Neon Genesis Evangelion reference in the first one with the deep state and the angel chained underground? Is that
Yeah.
I
You're
love it.
exposing my nerddom. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, that's
sorry,
right.
but
Or it's
no,
inspired by
that's great.
that.
All right. Thank you, man. That was great. And Shy Watson is up next. Hey, Shy, how's it going?
Hi, good. Thank you guys for having me. Um, the readings are so good that I'm like, shit, should I read what I was planning on reading or should I read something else? But I think I'm gonna read what I was planning on reading. But great job so far, everybody. Okay, I just start, right? Cool. Okay. This is in Elizabeth Ellen's Hobart. It's called 2 a.m. in Brownsville. The first time Jordan and I had sex, he grabbed a Magnum condom from the 50 count box on the ground beside us, slid it over his vaguely hard average sized penis, and played the pilot episode of The Sopranos. Jordan was a mattress on the floor guy, and he had stopped paying rent a few months back, but he had promised me lentils and toast if I braved the brisk 10-minute walk to his apartment. We'd only met once at the park between our neighborhoods, but I'd mentioned being hungry over text. Jordan lit a postcoital cigarette and contemplatively stared at the ceiling. My ex was a Nazi, he said. What? We were engaged. I let the weight of the statement wash over me, though he was only 22, 5 years my junior, and it was hard to take the prospect of him as a fiancé seriously. She got on all these blogs, he continued, real evil shit, then started inviting neckbeards to our house down in Ditmas Park. Oh, cool, I said. You lived in Ditmas? Yeah, we were engaged. You actually follow her on Instagram. Who? I'd rather not say. I was unaware that I followed a Nazi on Instagram. Perhaps I didn't. Perhaps Jordan didn't know the difference between an edgelord and a Nazi. Perhaps I didn't. Maybe there was no difference. Either way, I didn't care about his former fiance, and it occurred to me that this unsolicited confession could be some misguided attempt to make me jealous. Jordan ashed his cigarette onto the crotch flap of the boxers he was wearing. He suddenly seemed capable of anything. So, have you talked to your landlord yet? I asked, desperate to change the subject. No, but I'm baking on the eviction moratorium. I can't be expected to barista when Little Skips is shut down. Why don't you apply for unemployment? Because I'm not a fucking bottom feeder? In that moment, I decided I would never return to Jordan's apartment. In fact, I would not even sleep there, but would instead brave the brisk walk home, even if it was 2 a.m. in Brownsville. Jordan leaned over and cracked the window, for which I was grateful. The Sopranos droned on in the background. It was the part where Dr. Melfi analyzed Tony's love of the ducks, the part where she inferred he wanted to protect his family. That was distracting, I said. What was? The Sopranos. I've never watched it, so it was distracting. That's why I didn't come. The Sopranos had nothing to do with why I didn't come, but I felt I owed him an explanation, as he had overextended himself while vigorously fingering me with the candor of a preteen. Oh, he said, I've seen it so many times, it's like elevator music to me. I imagined myself on an elevator with gray carpeted walls, a square-shaped mirror above my head. I gazed up at my reflection as gunshots and car chases blasted through the speakers. Each passing floor was just another floor down, and there was no hope of getting off. I sprung from the mattress and excused myself. Every time I had sex with a new partner, I instantly contracted a UTI. The trick was to pee afterwards. Jordan's toilet seat was lifted and shit stained the bowl. A neglected litter box rested under the sink, though I had not witnessed any other evidence of a cat. I lowered the lid and dressed it in toilet paper before planting my ass. My urethra burned as I forced a jerky stream that stopped and started like an engine turning over in the dead of winter. As I relieved myself, I navigated to Jordan's Instagram and surveyed our mutuals. There were only 5 women we both followed, and none of them seemed the least bit like Nazis. I wiped from front to back, then gazed at my blonde hair and blue eyes and Jordan's toothpaste-studded mirror. Maybe he was the real Nazi. Maybe he just wanted to see what I would say. When I returned to Jordan's room, he had just lit another cigarette. I got on my knees in search of my crumpled panties, found them, then dressed. Where do you think you're going? Jordan said. Home. I squeezed the side button on my iPhone to light the screen. It's getting late and I have to work in the morning. Jordan took a long drag from his cigarette and said, suit yourself, then gave me an unsettling salute as I turned to leave his room. Thanks.
Oh my God. Shy, that was incredible. It took me a second because I was still laughing at the unsettling salute that closes this piece. This piece is fucking hilarious, first of all, but it's hilarious in an incredibly precise way. You have a real understanding of like exactly how human social awkwardness plays out. I love the dialogue in this. The dialogue is pristine. Like note by note, it's made each moment in this, like each exchange is 10 times funnier than it should be, right? Because of just how precisely you've picked the details here, just how precisely you've etched this dialogue. I love like the first of all, like even the way it opens, it sets up this beautiful punchline where it's this like, you just a very direct description of okay, I went over to his house to have sex, and then he turned on The Sopranos, and that moment, like the reader knows where this is going, and it's nowhere good, right? And then as the like social exchanges escalate, like and as you like gradually like reveal the nature of this guy's character, oh man, it's nasty, but it's also very, very funny and very insightful and just really good shit. So thanks so much, Shai.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for reading. Thank you for reading. This is a great piece. I'll have to go back and look it up on Hobart and revisit it. And also, you have a book out, right? I put the link in the chat, but I'll put it in again just so everyone has the chance to see it. All right. Well, thanks so much. And Riley is up next. I had to look at the list.
Okay, cool. Hopefully, like if the airplane announcer over the speaker says something, like I might stop, but like hopefully it doesn't happen. It hasn't really happened since I've been here. I'm okay. This is something new. I haven't published it and I haven't even like, it's just fresh and I thought it'd be like exciting for me to read it out loud. But okay, cool. It's called Let's Do This Thing Called Life. I'm my mother's best friend. I fear she's my only friend. My mother and I live alone together in the San Fernando Valley. We used to own 2 cats, both male, but they pissed the bed, my bed, so I kicked them out. My mother didn't say anything when I slammed the door shut on their furry compact bodies. I made sure to lock it. She only squinted in my general direction from her perch on the couch before returning to Hallmark on the TV. I used to have a brother, which means my mother used to have a son. My brother up and left us 3 years ago. He walked one morning to school and never walked back. When I called him to ask where he was, he said he went where the Wi-Fi is better. My mother keeps my brother's room just as he left it. She still feeds the cats too. The surviving one, anyway. The other one got ran over by a car. I wasn't around to witness his killing. My mother puts one bowl of cat food out every night. She hides this bowl behind a bush in the front yard. She says she hides the dish from other animals, but I know she hides the dish from me, so I won't be reminded of her inane sentimentality. My mother and I are a lot alike. We have brown hair and the same rectangle body. She taught me how to give an outstanding back massage on an oversized teddy bear when I was in high school. She was kneading the teddy bear's lumpy shoulders in small circular motions, her thumbs applying firm but tender pressure when she said to me, "I give the best back rubs in the block." I mastered the techniques she imparted to me that day. A week before I broke up with my second boyfriend, he wrote me a poem. In it, he called me a back rub angel. This is the only thing I remember from our relationship. The few men I've dated all wanted to meet my mother. I never allowed them to meet her, but spoke of her often to them. I don't think I've ever truly let anyone in aside from my mother. She is the inside of me. The idea of a boyfriend meeting my mother makes me squirm. To look at my mother is to look at myself cut and splayed on the table of an open heart surgery. I wish my boyfriends had asked to meet my father instead. I would also like to meet my father. Sometimes before leaving for my morning walk, I look in the mirror and imagine it's my father looking back at me. But my reflection is that of a girl, not a grown man. I'm sharing all of this with you so you believe what I tell you. I can't stomach it when people think I'm lying. I often do upsetting things to test if people really love me. Mother and I never lie to each other. Instead, we hurt each other with our words, or I hurt her with my words. She only says and does nice things for people. If my mother is moody, she walks around in silence rather than spreading negativity. Her silence makes me think negatively. She's never once greeted me without a smile. Her voice raises several octaves in saying my name. When I walk into our home, her hello rings out from deep inside the house in such a way I mistake this sound for church bells ringing. My mother was adopted and raised in a seriously religious household. The one request she asked of God when pregnant was that, the one request she asked of God when pregnant was that her child look like her. My mother looked nothing like her adopted family. She was a wild black horse in their field of preying white sheep. I think addressing me with love and excitement is her way of giving thanks to a God who listened. My mother said she outgrew pushing people away when she turned 25. The year she turned 25 was the same year she was cast in a Mexican soap opera. It was the year she met Leonardo DiCaprio. Leo was also living in Mexico at the time, filming Romeo and Juliet. Mother says she stayed up most nights partying and doing drugs with Leo, while Claire Danes, who's Juliet, retired to her hotel room early to study lines. The process of acting makes no sense to me. Leo and Claire both performed Shakespeare equally well in the film. The night Leo and my mother met, he asked her to come with him to his hotel so he could get his jacket. They were both shivering, shuffling on the dance floor. They ended up eating dinner together at the long mahogany table mere feet from his hotel bed. My mother sat at the head of the table. Leo sat at the other end. Pancakes for him, fish tacos for her. They talked for hours, but if I asked her now to remember something they said, my mother doesn't have a clue. She says she couldn't remember a single word if her life depended on it. My mother played a prostitute in the soap opera. She cut her hair boy length for the role and wore blue contacts. I should mention she was a size 00 since my mother never fails to include this detail in all of her stories of her life before giving birth to me. She says if she could, she would swallow a pill to meet her nutritional needs. In the soap opera, my mother looked like Winona Ryder, but prettier. I think it is her favorite version of herself. She said she really got somewhere in her craft playing that role. My mother told me there was one scene in particular that stands out in her memory. It was a scene where she learned someone had killed her character's brother. She lost her mind when filming this scene. She broke down in real tears and crawled across the floor of the set. She dry heaved to the point of blacking out. She says her vision was filled with tears and black spots, and it was beautiful. My mother asked to die. The cameraman followed her across the floor, alternating between zooming in on her splotchy mascara-streaked face and zooming out so the viewer could take in her barely clothed skeletal body convulsing on the floor. The director did not yell cut until my mother collapsed in a heap in the corner, mewling like a stray. They didn't use the take in the show, but the DP did put the scene on tape for her to keep as a reminder that she once believed in something. My mother cries in front of me more than anyone else's mother cries in front of them. It's been a while since I fact-checked this. I used to have friends, but I stopped leaving the house a couple of years ago. My references have become outdated. I don't miss people. I don't miss them telling me what they think I want to hear or what they hope is true about me. People rarely imagine they are close friends with someone abnormal. When my fifth grade teacher chastised me for talking during class, I knew I was abnormal. There was no one seated next to me. I hadn't realized I'd been talking. A day later, a woman stared at me while I waited in line to buy a blue raspberry slushie at 7-Eleven. 2 cars slowed down when driving past me on my long slushie slurping walk home. I guess I've been talking to myself those times too. I guess I've been talking to myself ever since. When I'm alone, that is, which I nearly never am. I think I'm going to stop because I'm nervous about the thing going off, but that was just a little bit. And thank you, MD, for inviting me. Yeah.
Riley, that was awesome. This is such a good intergenerational character study. I love how blunt and direct the narrator is. There's this wonderful kind of like candor to this piece, but it's a very specific and calculated kind of candor where like the frankness is compartmentalized and there's this slow revealing of the life of not one but 2 human beings. And as these details come out and the way they're presented, it's just wonderful. I love like the line about her brother saying he went to where the Wi-Fi is better, because first of all, that's just a hilarious and like brilliantly written line. But that one sentence reveals so much about how she's been living, how her mother has been living, the kind of conditions they're living under, and the kind of like emotional dynamic of this family in just that like one brief sentence. And all of the sentences in this piece are like that, where they're very blunt, they're very direct, but they contain like such richness, and every one of them reveals so much about these characters' lives. It's really just beautifully written. So thank you, Riley, and I hope you catch your flight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Andrew's up next. Andrew Weatherhead is up next. And Andrew, you actually have a book that just came out or is about to come out or something as well, right?
It just came out. It's like 10 days old. I have a big box of them right here. If anyone wants one, you can DM me. There's also, you can buy them from the publisher too, but you know, I'll work with you if you want a deal. I also have another book, so this is my last book, $50,000. The new book is called Fudge. Thanks for having me, William, and thanks, MD, for putting this all together, and congrats on your book. And everyone should go read that. I've gotten to take a look at it, and it's pretty sick. So I'm going to read just a little bit from the new book, Fudge. This is called Last Poem. Things are funny until they aren't, though you only change as much as you have to. So I sit in the corner and call it progress. I'd say I deserve it. Information wants to be disorganized. Try to make edits, you can't. The lattice flattens correctly. History revs its cute little engine. There were other stories, but they aren't right. It's not just a phase. Past does not equal present, does not equal future. Only poetry knows this. You get so good at telling your side of the story. I wish someone else would say it. But it's like a game. You don't have to say anything. And it's the same story everywhere. The dead poets love it. Another moment of silence. Close your eyes and hope for the best. Words drift like ships, heavy and lost. One clammy hand wringing the other. I see what I see and it's all true. No need to call it anything else. Events just barely happen. The insurrectionists took selfies and left. I hold my small, beautiful wife. Heavy metals congeal in the ether. You can't trust the leaders, and you can't trust the followers. Let the products sell themselves, they said. Life is hard, they said. I mean, of course I want it to end, or to begin again. But evil is boring, like a friend. You have to find some way to write it down. What, you think poems just happen? That the demands on the flesh are simply excised through language? Try dismantling the system in your image. You won't even notice. So this is my final poem, and I wish I could forget each one. But words require logic, definition. Surely nature can do better. The night scoots, days like shirts, numbers like bugs. I go round and round like a ghost. Cops on every corner, magicians sawing folks in half. So we end up back at the beginning, like it's the only thing left. But I didn't used to talk like this. It's the only way a poem can end. That's it. Thank you.
Those were fantastic, Andrew. I love how concisely and precisely written each of these is. They're almost like a Buddhist koan, you know, if I'm saying that, pronouncing that word correctly, which is to say each of them is very short, but you could take one of these and meditate on it for like a fucking hour, right? Like the language here is so carefully constrained and so carefully constructed, and the ideas here are so fucking rich that you could take one of these poems and just meditate on it, just like let it soak in. And like one of the I think one of the like real like telling signs of a great poem is like the ratio of words on the page to like feeling and ideas conveyed. And you've got I have not heard many poets whose ratios are like as good as yours, like just in terms of that. But anyway, man, this fantastic stuff. The book is Fudge, right?
Yeah, Fudge.
And I did put the link to purchase it in the chat when you started, but also you said people
Awesome.
can
Thank you.
DM you as well.
Yeah, totally. Thanks again for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man. It was great. And closing out the night tonight is MD Wheatley himself.
Hello. That went quick. I feel like
It did, but that's poetry, right?
yeah. I just want to say thank you to every single person that read. William said it at the beginning, but yeah, I don't want to say like handpicked. It's kind of like I don't know, that word sounds black, but I don't know. I chose and asked like every person that read tonight, and just because every person that read tonight, I'm like a really, really big fan of. Some of them have like helped me a lot with my poetry. I'd say actually probably like almost all of them have helped me a lot with my poetry in some, in some shape or another. And Riley is just like, I don't know, those pieces that I put in the chat, if you guys go and read them, I feel pretty 100% certain that if you haven't read them, they'll like fucking blow you away, because she's a really incredible writer. And Riley is not on Twitter and stuff, so I feel like some people like don't know of her writing or don't see her writing, because I know a lot of us like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of us like that's our community, is like X and Twitter, and that's how we communicate with each other, and that's how we like see our new pieces and stuff like that. But yeah, Riley like pretty much mostly uses Instagram. But yeah, her shit is just really good. Her first piece that was on Hobart, when Steven like received it, Steven like texted it to me, like I want to say like probably like a month. I mean, probably not a month, maybe like a week or two before it like published. And he sent it to me and was just like, dude, read this. And I think I was like at the pool, or I was like at a pool or something when he sent it to me. But like literally instantly stopped and read it on my phone, and just, yeah, I don't know, I couldn't believe it. Her writing is just really good, and I'm really, really stoked she was down to like read tonight. I hope that, like, I mean, I feel like a lot of you guys probably didn't really know of Riley or know of her writing before tonight. And I'm glad that now you do. And I really hope that you guys go and read her shit, because it's really fucking good. And yeah, everyone else pretty much in the lineup, yeah, has just been like really helpful to me in various ways. But yeah, I'm gonna stop running my mouth. I made a little book. A lot of the poems in this book have existed for like quite a while. I started writing this book when I was like basically living in a hospital. I was in the hospital a lot after my daughter was born, and that's when I started writing pretty much. And that's where like a lot of these poems like started, but they like changed like grew a lot and changed, I'd say definitely for the better. And I mean, essentially this poem is like it's like a love letter, essentially. I mean, it's like a love letter to my wife and a love letter to my daughter. But it's like, I don't know, it's also, I tried to make it a bit lighthearted too. I don't want it to like everything to be so like sad and heavy, you know. But yeah, like I'm gonna just read quite a bit from it, if that's chill. Almost all the poems in it are like fairly short. I'm gonna start by reading actually some acknowledgments in the back, just because I feel like that's pretty important. But thanks a ton to Coleman, and Tom Snarsky and Andrew Weatherhead for being good at poetry and helping me with these poems. Thanks to Justin and Tyler, two of my friends that live in New York. They have a little thing called Love for Sale. They're the ones like publishing it and putting it out. And then of course there's a thanks in here to Sav and Chloe, which is my wife and my daughter. And also thank you a ton to people or like friends that read it and blurbed it. That was nice of you guys. Very nice of you. Graham, Troy. I think this is probably the only two in here that blurbed it. So yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm actually going to start by reading the I think it's called an epigraph. I don't know. I'm like stupid and don't know a whole lot about this stuff, but I think it's epigraph. It's like the thing at the beginning. I don't know. It's from Joe Brainerd. It says, "I remember summer naps of no sleeping and Kool-Aid." And Cletus told me about Joe Brainerd. He put me on to Joe Brainerd. So thank you. It's got a little proem in there, so I'm gonna read that first. The World's Fair. Held in my face and cracked in half, the child cried and cried while the whole world laughed. This isn't fair. This is not fair. Life just is not fair. New teeth grew in as crooked as could be. They pressed and pressed as I began to bleed. Painted the grass blue, colored the sky green. That doesn't look real. It just isn't real. The child continued to weep. Oh, I've tried and tried to even catch a glimpse, but it just isn't real anymore. Falling, climbing, continuing to limp. This little first one is called In the Woods Across the Street. Like monkeys swinging from trees before we needed shoes, before we knew God. This one's called ATM. At the moment machine, where I come when I'm in need. This one's a haiku about you and me and everyone we love. Starless navy sky, touch every face you see. Count 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's 2 different headlights. The bluish one's too bright. I hate looking at it. Shining right in my face, leaving me no choice but to give them the finger. Tail lights wane, gibbous waxing my face. The moon's never too bright. When I hear gunshots outside, I don't run or bury my head in the pillow. I don't regret a thing or imagine how it could have been different. I don't lament you or examine the entry and exit wounds. I don't picture what you'd look like now or for a split second see her widow's peak. I don't obsess over memories or whether the snakes were real. I don't hide from the hurricane or ever let go of my mother's hand. I don't flush the scratched CDs or listen to the Smashing Pumpkins on repeat. I don't palpate the tailgate or leave the garage open all night. I don't brush with toothpaste or forget to drink Kool-Aid. I don't make a peep or blame her for flipping the four-wheeler. I don't break up the fight or cover the hole in the wall with a Gons poster. When I hear gunshots outside, I recite a prayer or think of a prayer that makes me feel less alone. In that poem, it actually says, or listen to Galapagos on repeat. And Galapagos is like one of my favorite Smashing Pumpkins songs. But I feel like when I say Galapagos, like no one knows what I'm talking about. So for the reading, I just switched it up to the Smashing Pumpkins. This next one's called Basketball Dreams. I float through school, checking every room for signs of life. I heat the pan, crack the egg, but forget to check my horoscope. I tie my shoes, double knots, only to track through piles of shit. I print your smile, double-sided in color, to keep in my wallet. When the day becomes clad in cadmium orange, I dream I'm playing basketball on the sidewalk. These next like 5 I'm gonna read like kind of all go together. So I'm just gonna kind of like move through them. I didn't know you then and I don't know them now. We were drunk on Kool-Aid when I taught them how to swim. I can still taste the sunblock cocktail when I'd spit and the two mixed. Red like blood, red light wish, Kool-Aid whisper sips. Neighborhood Nelly pots bouncing between homes with burning white rocks underneath our toes. If my house was the sun, theirs was the moon. I learned how to share a room way before I knew you. Today, it was hard to breathe. Dreamt last night of God's playground, all under a massive / unidentifiable tree. Clovers covering the earth like blankets, moss infecting picnic tables like contagion, algae hovering swamps like feral angels, kudzu conquering everything vertical. Expired utility poles, faded stop signs, abandoned tree stands, broken crosses, etc., etc. Everything drowning in golden light, unfamiliar faces with infantile bodies, floating, dancing, singing in their own language. Felt like heaven / what a heaven could feel like. Today, it was hard to breathe again. Peace hides in perennials, not apace but serene. Supine and median fields, horizontal rests never last. Wind carries us like naked angels, only half aware. I didn't punch you in the stomach, but it felt like I did. Thumbnail sketch the overall feeling, and I'll teach you how to drown too. I want to know exactly how you felt, with no discrepancy in the shade of blue. Call back when you can actually talk, and I'll answer when I'm more myself. Hold the phone closer to your mouth. I want to hear you lose your breath. Trying to catch my breath. If I chose to deteriorate, would you let me? Or would you remind me of all the times we made sweet, sweet love, then ate ice cream? If I blamed my amnesia, would you flip the script and point the finger at God? We made God out to be our father, when really she's our mother. Making out with you feels like making out with God. You caress my eyebrow scar, and my temporal body explodes. Disembodied, you cradle my head in your arms like our baby. I try to speak, but my voice gives out. I try to breathe, but choke on Kool-Aid. Your whispers, I can't make out. We butterfly kiss, then you release my head into the clouds. This next one's called The Gaze of 1 Million. There are a million ways to become what you are, but you will never become what you were. This one's called The Closest I'll Get to Heaven. There's something about when I'm holding her, feeling my body melt into hers, and I'm holding a torso, but her feet are melting into the ground. Her dextral arm in my desperate mouth. Her skin hugging the magnitude of Earth. This one's called Crying in New Places. The hospital could cry, every eye, on every floor, and we wouldn't call for help. But if New York City cried, the whole city, we'd have a real problem. This next one's called Nothing Gold Can Stay. It's actually not a reference to Robert Frost. It's more, I was thinking of this band New Found Glory. It's like an old pop punk band when I was, I don't know, when this happened, I guess. Yeah, it's called Nothing Gold Can Stay. Whenever I blink, 24 hours pass, and the glowing red trash can is still full of hazardous Kool-Aid. This one's called The Communal Kitchenette. I see the same people every day in 5 o'clock traffic at the microwave. I'm gonna restart that one, hold up. The Communal Kitchenette. I see the same people every day in 5 o'clock traffic at the microwave. They look like zombies, minus the rotting flesh and hunger for life in their eyes. Sometimes I imagine their facial features shrunken 50% on the same face. It reminds me of perspective and just what a shift can do. This makes me less sad. This is the last poem in the book. It's a haiku about going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Life felt less short when driving back home felt this long. And that is the end of the book. I did want to read one new one though, if that is chill. And yeah, I read pretty much the whole book. I think I maybe didn't read like 10 of them. Like I said, most of them are like super duper short, but yeah, if you liked any of the poems, reading some of them is like kind of hard because of how short they are, and basically all the ones I chose not to read have like a visual aspect to them, so like they're kind of meant to be like looked at and read. So yeah, if you want to know what a heaven could feel like, you could buy this book. Yeah, William just put the link in there, and also if you go to like my website, it's linked on there too, which is linked, and my website's linked on all my socials. Anyone that was in here last Friday, sorry, I'm reading one I read last Friday, but I feel like I fucked it up, so I wanted to try to read it again better, and also came up with a new name for it. This poem is called, well, it's 12 short poems titled as a whole thing, Year of the 95% Filtration Efficacy Korean Mask. Suspending in proximity to Kobe as he holds his daughter and tries to save her. Screaming in unknown faces because music, and drinking hot tea to soothe my throat. Watching the world fall apart on my iPhone and reading Ishmael in my front yard. Riding my bike to the beach to say good morning to the sun. Missing Paris because this time last year we were able to fly. Leaving my old bubble for a new one and hoping to make it mine. Cramming old friends in my new apartment and finding new spots for old furniture. Creating new scars on top of old scars and watching a moose shit in an alpine lake. Thinking about that Gon's line of poetry. If there is a God, he's gonna get it. Dipping cotton candy clouds into the ocean like I'm God. Learning to be a teacher while teaching that teacher is not spelled T-E-G-R. Drinking 3 double espressos in 3 hours, then taking a 3-month break from my iPhone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
That was fucking beautiful, man. So it's not often that someone is able to read like a complete work at Misery Loves Company. And I really dug the fact that you read the lion's share of that poetry book, because it gives me a real sense of the arc of the book. And the arc of this book is fucking beautiful. Like, it opens with so much childhood nostalgia. This is like, it follows almost the arc of a human life, right? Because as I said, like the beginning, there's so much nostalgia. There's so much like childhood innocence and emotion. And I love the way that not the opening poem, but the like second poem ends with like before they knew God, where like I love the idea that like knowledge of God is a kind of ironic loss of innocence, right? That is such an astute and insightful and like profound thought that's hidden in this concise, beautiful little poem. But anyway, so it opens like that, and by the end of the book, you're lined up for the microwave at lunch, and you're like, there's this real sense of adult disillusionment near the end of the book there, and that whole like the like loss of childhood and the whole emotional arc there, the emotional journey from the like innocence and naivete and like romantic richness of childhood to the like disillusionment and coldness of adulthood. And yet you don't completely lose hope either. It's not like it's this journey into despair, because there's still that hopeful twist to even the microwave poem. Man, this is just really emotionally powerful, gorgeously written, beautiful stuff. I love the reoccurring Kool-Aid references too. They're so perfect, since so much of the collection is like about childhood and about adolescence and about how that feels. Like you couldn't have picked a better recurring like motif than Kool-Aid, really. It's beautiful stuff, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much too for putting this whole fucking thing together. This has been a wonderful night with just really incredible fucking readers. Sorry, man. What?
Thank you. I have my thing just there for a minute, just listening to you. You are just a really freaking good, incredible like poetry reading host. Thank you for like having this space. Thank you for all the kind words you said. Your thoughts and like observations about the book are like so spot on, and I feel like W's in the chat for freaking William.
Don't.
I don't know. It's just like
W's in the chat for the
a
readers, okay? The readers are the one who put in the real work tonight. The readers are the one who actually wrote something and presented it. But sorry, man. Sorry, man.
Ooh, Kool-Aid with Sprite sounds nice. That makes me think of Sprite Remix. Y'all remember that? Sprite Remix. But yeah, just like I don't know, like as a writer, especially as like a new writer, and because I haven't been, I don't know, I haven't been like writing like super long, and I don't know, I want to say that it's nice as a writer and as a poet to be able to read your poems or like read something that obviously isn't like poetry is not like straightforward all the time, you know, and it's nice to be able to like read poetry and read poems and like the person that's listening to or the person that reads it like picks up what you're putting down, you know. And so I appreciate all your kind words and for having this space. This book, like, I don't know, I want to talk like just because I don't feel like there's any reason not to like share and be like, I guess, a little insightful on like the process of like making this book, because I don't know, I don't care who I guess knows or doesn't know the process of it either way. But like when I wrote this book, it had like a different name originally, and so, I don't know, like the different name like just made the vibe of the book like truly completely different. Like it really did. Part of it being that the like opening poem or like the title poem was the name of the book or whatever, and so anyways, I'd worked on this book for like a bit, and I had worked on it some kind of initially with Cletus, and he helped me out like a ton on it, just like a ton on like cleaning up, like I don't know, just good feedback, you know. And then so then like after that I worked on like a good bit with this dude named Tom Snarsky, who is like, as far as like the way that you have like a brain for like poetry and like understanding poetry, it reminds me of Tom Snarsky. This dude Tom Snarsky is like a fucking encyclopedia of poetry. He knows, I feel like he probably knows every poet that's ever existed. Like that's how it seems, at least. And he has like a really, really insane, I don't know, just like I was saying about you, like he picks up what they're putting down, kind of thing, you know.
Rudy,
And
I'm sorry to interrupt. Rudy, did we publish Tom a couple of times? His name sounds super familiar to me. Am I
Yeah, I
wrong?
want to say we did, I think.
Oh, okay.
he had
Misery
a really good poem. He had a really, really good poem recently in on Back Patio that was like super good, and that's like how I came to know him. Like I didn't know who he was before that, and then we put some poems of his on Swamp. But anyways, he helped out with the book, and he was just incredible. And then Andrew was super nice and helped with the book too. And Andrew is the one that like basically brought up the basically was like gave me the insight on like the title and like thinking about what could work better, and he just really, really honestly opened my eyes up and gave me insight in like a way that I maybe was trying to like avoid thinking about it or something like that. But yeah, like I I feel like I owe a lot of things to Andrew because it wouldn't have changed to what it was, and I don't think it would have like turned into what it was if it wasn't for Andrew. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm just fucking rambling at this point.
No,
But
no, it's good to get insight into how the book was written. Because it's something else you don't often get a lot of at readings. Like often it's like, hey, here are a few of my poems, thank you, bye. And I know, everyone's nervous, and so often that's all you can do. But but it's great to hear like about the process, because I think a lot of writers are super uncomfortable about their process, like feel self-conscious about their process, right? And so it's good to hear someone else talk about it and be like, oh, okay, like everyone struggles, everyone like takes it apart and puts it back together again, and all this shit. No, it's always good to hear. But thank you, man. You picked a fucking excellent slate of readers for tonight. And thank you to everyone who read. This has been really phenomenal. This has been a really fun time. I think we're gonna leave I think we'll leave it there, but after I'm done recording, I will leave the Zoom meeting open for a while if people just want to hang out or whatever. But if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, this has been Misery Loves Company. We do this every fucking Friday night. I forgot what time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you'd like to attend, it's open to anyone to come and share their work if they'd like, or just come and lurk and hang out. We tweet out the link a few minutes before we begin from our Twitter account at Misery Tourism. And yeah, I think that's it. Thanks again, guys. This has been really, really wonderful. And thank you again to MD for putting this together. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you go and look at the Twitter thread, you'll find links to a lot of these books that have been read from tonight, and you can fucking buy them, believe it or not. Okay, that's it. Thanks again, guys. I'm going to end it there.